Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second to ask that if you gain any valuable insight from this episode, that you please share and leave a review. We truly appreciate all the support and would love your help to spread the word. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Jeff Fenster Show for another segment of Lessons Learned, where we're going to recap the top takeaways from David Meltzer on pursuing your potential. Number 1, connecting the dots backwards. So take me back to when you were a kid, when I was watching you play high school football. What did you see yourself doing?
Being rich. And I didn't care how. And I think it's indicative of my journey if you connected the dots backwards, especially when I ran Lee Steinberg, the sports agency. So many people were like, how'd you do that? Like, how'd you get hired here? And if I connected the dots backwards of, I graduated law school and got into the internet instead of being an oil and gas litigator, all the way through middleware and raising millions of dollars in Sand Hill Road to running Samsung's phone division with the PCE phone, which I still owe you one. And then being an entrepreneur in construction and real estate, leading me to Lee Steinberg. People are like, how'd that happen? Well, I'll tell you why it happened, because of my relationship with money. As you know, I had a very poor upbringing. My parents weren't doctors. My mom was just a teacher at the same school your mom was. So, your mom could afford to make the $17,000 a year. My mom really couldn't with, 6 kids that we had total. And so I wanted to be rich. And so I always kept my options open, but I knew the one thing I wanted to do, whether it was going to be as a professional football player or a real estate syndicator or a movie star or just a salesperson, because I knew I was good at that. I was going to be rich no matter what, and I was going to buy my mom the biggest house and the nicest car I could.
Number 2, if you can look up, you can get up. Take me to the moment that you knew you were going to have to file bankruptcy and lose it all. First, you had to tell your wife.
Yeah.
And you had to tell your kids. And I know how painful as a dad and a husband that possibly was. Was that... What went through your mind that day when you had to first tell Julie, we're going to have to sell the house, we're going to move, before we even got to your mom?
Yeah, well, I think it was admitting to my wife 2 years earlier that I'd screwed everything up. And she made me admit it because she threatened to leave me, because although I was worth over $100 million 2 years previous in 2006, she saw the writing on the wall. So out of anyone, because she's closest to me, she was not surprised when I went bankrupt or had to go bankrupt, because she knew that I was on a road of redemption. And one of the funniest things about that whole process is 2 years before I went bankrupt was the low point in my marriage. It was my basement. And my wife told me that I better take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become. In fact, one of the things she said to me that rocked my world was, what would your mom think if she knew what you actually were doing? Not what she thinks you're doing.
Yeah.
What if she knew what I know about you? What would and I still get choked up because how much I love my mom.
Yep.
And I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to do things that she's not proud of, especially with the sibling rivalry I have with my hyper-competitive and exceptional siblings from Harvard, Penn, and Columbia. But I sat there, and that rocked me the next morning, because I was just going to get divorced. But it was leading up to it. The interesting thing was when I lost everything, and we had 33 homes in San Diego, businesses, I was running Lee Steinberg. So it wasn't just that I was a multimillionaire. I had access to what billionaires couldn't even afford to do. The scary thing for her was how confident I was with the bankruptcy. Like moving to a rented house with rented furniture and one car, I was confident that the money wasn't going to be a problem to make back. And in fact, I walked in, you remember my big home in Rancho Santa Fe. I walked in, she didn't know I was home. She was with her uncle who knew me since I was 10, and she was crying. She's like, I don't know if he can do this, if he's going to pull us out of it. What should I do? And her uncle said, oh my goodness, Julie, I've seen this kid do so many exceptional things since he was 10. I can't wait to see what he does with his back against the wall.
I mean, was that when you heard that, did it take you to a place of confidence, or did it make you feel worse knowing that your wife had to have this conversation?
Both. I cried. I still get choked up because I was shameful.
Sure.
Because I was accountable for this. I know I got into law suits, people, as for you, people lied to me, cheated me, manipulated, all types of things, but I was accountable. I didn't learn to trust and vet people the right way. I'm accountable, but it also, as shameful as I was and sad that, she was sad, man, you know me. You saw the 147-pound kid play football against guys way bigger and better than me. There was nothing that fired me up more than thinking, man, just if I can look up, I can get up.
Number 3, the 3 characteristics of energy. Back then, I remember be above the line. Blame, shame, justification. It's in my head. I've heard you say it to me a billion times.
Yeah.
And there were times, honestly, because I love you, and I can tell this to you now, I used to think in my head, he speaks it, but he's not living it.
Right.
But something changed.
Yeah.
Was that, because you said the gratitude, so was that, when did that quantify?
Right. So understanding that there's 3 characteristics of behavior, but they're the same 3 characteristics of energy. And money's an energy as well. It's everything aggregates on itself. You attract more and more of it. So when you do things a certain way, say things a certain way, think things a certain way, believe them a certain way, and feel them, they're aggregating at 5 different levels of intention. So the first step was to talk it.
Yep.
Right? And then you've known me long enough and we're close enough to me and saying, yeah, he's talking this stuff, but I'm watching what he's doing. He's surrounding himself with the wrong people, the wrong ideas. He's below the line himself, which, also diminished my capacity to teach you and to have credibility when you say one thing but do another. Mm-hmm. But what happened was through the aggregation came compounding effect. So not only was I attracting more and more gracious, forgiving, and accountable, inspired people into my life and circumstances, options, opportunities, and touches of favor, but it was compounding. 1 turned to 2, 2 to 4, not 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4.
Yep.
And then what happens, the third characteristic of energy, aggregation, compounding, is acceleration. So things started happening faster, which got over the biggest deterrent or obstacle that human beings have is they're not capable of seeing progress. So they quit good behavior and they constantly have bad behavior because they don't expect the aggregation, compounding, and acceleration. So the third component of acceleration speeds up the outcome, the results, so that you get more confidence that you're doing the right thing. You get reinforcement that, oh shit, gratitude works. Where most people aren't consistent, persistent in the pursuit of their perspective, their gratitude, their forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration. So it was all an accumulation and aggregation, compounding, and acceleration that was occurring, but it had to start somewhere. It's like quitting smoking.
You got to quit now.
Right. Like you could say, I'm going to quit. And then, if you cut back, if you smoke 30 cigarettes a day and the next day you smoke 29 and you can cut 1 cigarette a day in a month, you're going to be done. But during that month, people are going to think you're a hypocrite because you're like, I'm trying to quit smoking. But why are you still smoking?
And what you just articulated is my 4th core value of Kaizen. I use it as well. Get 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Set micro goals, win stack wins, do something you can do today. It's what I give the analogy on stage a lot when I'm explaining it through working out, which is like people want to get in shape. I'm in the health food sector. Hey, and I'm in shape. How do you do it? I'm overweight. I'm out of shape. And I say, put on your gym clothes and watch Netflix today. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Put on your gym clothes tomorrow and walk or run to 1 mailbox. Can you do that? Number 4, taking time out of the equation.
I remember when I had made back everything and I was doing extremely well and you were having some struggles. And you just starting to do well again, and you said, Dave, I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but Dave, can you teach me to make millions?
I remember. It was in your office in Orange County.
In Orange County on research.
That's right.
And I said, yeah, and I gave you that lesson. In fact, that's the lesson that I taught Bob Proctor, my mentor, because he was someone that created a lot of resistance in people's lives by saying you need to know exactly the amount of time, quantify the amount, right? I need to make $1 million by March 31st. You're screwed. I used to tell Bob, why would you do that to people?
Yeah.
Right? Change the way that you do it into I'm going to do everything, say everything, think everything, believe everything, feel everything in the trajectory of doubling the amount of money I make as fast as I can. Right. No resistance.
The hardest part about that, though, when you gave me that advice and I'm sitting there and I remember you saying, just remove the time element, Jeff, you'll make millions. Just stop making it about this year. Because I said to you, Dave, I've made 6 figures for the last couple of years. I need to make 7 this year.
Yeah.
And you said, remove the time frame.
Yeah.
It's not going to, maybe it happens this year, maybe it doesn't. But remove that. And I'm thinking in my head, that's not the advice I want. I want it this year.
Right.
Stop it. Feed me the advice I
Bob
want,
Proctor
please.
was going to give you the advice you wanted.
That's
right?
what I want to hear.
Think about $1 million. Put it on your refrigerator.
Yes.
Look at it every day. December 31st.
Well, it's just because.
And every day you run out of time.
And to your point, it's like I'm making decisions with sand falling through and realizing that the time is about to run out.
Yeah.
And I changed from building foundations to just building rickety ladders I think is going to get me there faster. So I drove home and I remember thinking, I didn't get what I came for, and I was frustrated.
Not again.
Not again. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So what am I going to do? And then I came to the realization, either I'm going to take the advice from someone who has done it, who I trust and has proven that it works, or I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. And you know what I'm going to get if I keep doing what I've been doing? What I've been getting.
Yeah. I remember when I had made back everything, and I was doing extremely well, and you were having some struggles, and you were just starting to do well again, and you said, Dave, I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but Dave, can you teach me to make millions?
I remember. It was in your office in Orange County.
In Orange County on research.
That's right.
And I said, yeah. And I gave you that lesson. In fact, that's the lesson that I taught Bob Proctor, my mentor, because he was someone that created a lot of resistance in people's lives by saying you need to know exactly the amount of time, quantify the amount, right? I need to make $1 million by March 31st. You're screwed. I used to tell Bob, why would you do that to people? Right? Change the way that you do it into, I'm going to do everything, say everything, think everything, believe everything, feel everything in the trajectory of doubling the amount of money I make as fast as I can. Right. No resistance.
The hardest part about that, though, when you gave me that advice and I'm sitting there and I remember you saying, just remove the time element, Jeff, you'll make millions. Just stop making it about this year. Because I said to you, Dave, I've made 6 figures for the last couple of years. I need to make 7 this year. And you said, remove the time frame.
Yeah.
It's not going to, maybe it happens this year, maybe it doesn't. But remove that. And I'm thinking in my head, that's not the advice I want. I want it this year.
Right.
Stop it. Feed me the advice I
Bob
want,
Proctor
please.
was going to give you the advice you wanted.
That's what I want to hear.
Think about $1 million. Put it on your refrigerator.
Yes.
Look at it every day. December 31st.
Well, it's just because.
And every day you run out of time.
And to your point, it's like I'm making decisions with sand falling through and realizing that the time is about to run out.
Yeah.
And I changed from building foundations to just building rickety ladders I think is going to get me there faster. So I drove home and I remember thinking, I didn't get what I came for, and I was frustrated.
Not again.
Not again. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So what am I going to do? And then I came to the realization, either I'm going to take the advice from someone who has done it, who I trust and has proven that it works, or I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. And you know what I'm going to get if I keep doing what I've been doing? What I've been getting.
Yeah.
Number 5, from taking hits to living in a world of more than enough.
I'm lying in bed crying because I have to tell Julie this morning that this is it. We're moving. And I didn't want to get up. And I remember just looking, the TV came on, and it's Rocky 1. It's the end. And I'm sitting there going, he's just taking a beating. And I remember thinking in bed, man, the hits just keep coming is what I was telling myself. There was lawsuits and blame and right. And I'm trying to teach myself to be accountable and say, what did I do? And it took me 9 years from 2008, 9 years to come to resolve of what I've learned and truly be accountable and forgiving, and go up to the guy that I used to blame for me losing everything and the bank that, cut my $40 million line of credit without telling me, right? Just stupid shit. Mm-hmm. But I sat there and I remember saying, he got knocked down at the very end and they're like, stay down, Rocky, remember?
Yeah.
And
Mickey's screaming, stay down.
Right. He looks up and I remember telling myself, if I can look up, I can get up. And Rocky's like pulling, right? And same
and
with
they're
Apollo.
both falling down.
Right, remember? And
yeah, they're both
he's just
down.
looking up and he gets up, right? And he didn't win, by the way.
Correct.
A lot of people may not remember that. He didn't win, but he got up.
And he demoralized his opponent, Creed, because he kept getting up.
Yeah, yeah. And so I got up and I took accountability was the approach that I said. Yeah. I told my wife, because she wasn't taking accountability. She was so in love with me and protective of me. It was everyone else's fault. And so I told her, hey, we're going to start over. We're going to start over. And I still have one of the greatest jobs in the world. I still have amazing people around me that I was kind to, right? I was saying, be kind to your future self, do good deeds. And those people that aren't my friends anymore, those people that blame me were never my friends. And I changed the way I looked at who I surrounded. Now, 2 years earlier, she made me fire 3 people from my life. We were already on a journey, but she told me, in fact, my favorite story about my wife is I brought my first paycheck home. We were moved to Orange County, closer to Lee Steinberg. I got my first paycheck from Lee, and I brought it home. And we were a rented house, rented furniture, 1 car. And I had lots of cars before that. Anyway, I said, hey, can we my wife and I went to Patrick Henry High School here in San Diego, same high school. I said, can I give part of this money to a scholarship for a kid that can't afford to go to college? Me and my siblings never would have went to college but for scholarships. That's just
in your first paycheck.
My first paycheck. I said, can I give some of this? I'm in a rented house. And my wife looks at me and cries. I said, why are you crying? It'll be fine. I'm going to make a lot more than this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I haven't forgotten how I never had a problem making money.
Right.
Keeping it maybe was an issue. From the time I got out of law school, Jeff,
Yes.
Before I got out of law school, I was like you, bro. Like, I mean, I can't even tell the stories of Jeff when he was 17 and like they thought he was ditching school, but he was making more money than the teachers. Right? We have that in common.
Yes.
So I'm like, dude, I was like, don't cry. I'm going to make plenty. She said, no, you finally get it. I said, what do you mean? She goes, you finally trust the universe and you get it. And I said, wow. Yeah, I'm putting trust in the universe that this is going to work out. That time thing, everything. Yeah. And she said, yeah. I said, yeah, I do get it. And she said, then double it. And I literally said this, one of my favorite lines of my life. I looked at her and I said, don't trust the universe that much. So I started a scholarship for student athletes at Patrick Henry High School that day, my very first paycheck. And we've had, multiple millions given to Junior Achievement, Unstoppable, and Patrick Henry, Occidental, Tulane, the Leadership Award, all stemming from me trusting the fact that I live in a world of more than enough.
Hey everyone, just wanted to take a second to say how incredibly grateful we are for all of our listeners, and I want to hear from you. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and it will only help us make this show better for you. So any questions you have, click the link in the show notes below and let us know. Now, back to the episode. Number 6, meeting your people where they're at. Do you still operate with that same mindset? Like, are you prepared to say, you know what, even if it ruins our relationship, I'm going to do what's best, what I believe is best for you? Or have you changed that?
I've gotten better at it, but I haven't changed my attitude towards it. Right? I love being and helping my friends and family, and utilizing my business to help my friends and family. And with PCE Phone, I hired 2 of my heroes, not friends, right? Older guys. One went to Stanford, right? One was an incredible baseball player. I looked up to both of them. Both were not capable of doing the job, right? I put them in positions, but I was just too young as the CEO to know what I was doing. But still to this day, right? PCE Phone was 1999, so that's 24 years ago. They still blame me because of their inadequacies. They blame me 24 years ago. I ran into one of them, right? And his wife, who was on homecoming court with me, she's like, I love you anyway. And I'm like, love me anyway for what? Like, what happened 24 years ago when I gave your husband, who wasn't your husband at the time, a vice president job he was a Seagram's sales rep, and I gave him a vice president job of Samsung's phone division, their very first smartphone, and you forgive me? Like, I'm sitting there going, this is the shit that I have to deal with. So what have I been able to do? I've been able to create a better system to allow people to either take positions that are better aligned with their skills, their knowledge, and their desire, so that I'm meeting them where they're at instead of projecting my expectations of their capability, of their potential onto them, which is a really dangerous thing, which I've seen you do as well as I've done, to expect too much out of people because we think too highly of them. And so 1 is meeting them where they're at, and then 2, having a plan B and C if they're not capable. So if someone I promote to a president, and I might say, hey, look, you're a great executive assistant. If you're not capable of doing this, I don't want to lose you. I'm more than happy to pay you to do this or help you find somewhere better and take my time to do that. And that's really reduced the amount of people that hate me. Now, one of the funner ones is you, because you just kept coming back for more. And
I'm Rocky.
Yeah, man. But I knew your potential. Like if somebody would have said to me, who do you know at 19 years old that you can guarantee will be a multimillionaire before they're 50? I'd have said Jeff Fenster. Dan Fleischman, Jeff Fenster. And I still would say that, right? You could lose everything today. I would still say Dan Fleischman, Jeff Fenster before they're 50. You can lose everything. You're not going to, because you've learned and I paid the dummy tax, so you ain't gonna make the same stupid mistakes I did. But think about that. Why? And that's why I was able to push you, because I knew if I was wrong, you wouldn't come back.
Number 7, I can't want it for you more than you do.
But here's where one of the lessons inherent in what you're saying. My biggest fault is I want more for most people than they want for themselves.
Isn't that weird?
Right? I want more for them. And I see it, right? It was like the two guys that work for me at PCE Phone. Mm-hmm. I wanted more for them than they wanted for themselves. And then they blame me when they can't live up to what I want for them.
Correct. It's your fault.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because maybe they thought you were just going to hand it to them.
Or one of the other things, and we have a common person in our lives, that you put them in a position that isn't right because you love them so much.
Yes.
Right. And I've done that too. Like one of those guys that we're talking about at PC Phone, like I wanted it so bad, but he wasn't qualified. It wasn't the right time for him. And I didn't have he would have been a great sales guy.
Yep.
Right. But I put him as a vice president and he had right. And so the timing wise too, sometimes when you get older, you're much better at managing someone and saying, look, start here because I know this is what it is, and maybe even overpay him a little bit to motivate him. I took the ultimate step, Jeff, and I got to tell you, because it applies to what we're teaching, and I was most afraid, and it's turned into one of the most successful things I've done. My daughter, I helped her get an interview with Alex Machinsky, who's the CEO of Celsius. They went under.
I lost a bunch of money in
She
Celsius.
got a ton of job offers right from there in digital marketing, and Justin, my head of media, is like, you need to hire your daughter. And I'm impressed, right? I'm like, well, what do you mean I need to hire my daughter? Dave, there's no one better out there, trust me, that gets you and gets the brand and gets digital marketing. She's worked for Hintwater. She's worked for Celsius. Like, literally, Dave.
Like, forget that she's your daughter. She's the best.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't, because of the history that you and I have shared with these people. Yep. I can't afford to have my daughter blame me for her career. And so I spent days and weeks formulating a plan before I even mentioned it to her of how I could have her work with the company, but take out all the things I'd learned from the past so that Business Dave was never in contact with my daughter. She can witness Business Dave when he's talking to Justin or Alex or Serafina. Business Dave, you can witness, but she's already witnessed me. She's watched me for 23 years be Business Dave.
Right.
Right.
But it'll never be to her.
Never be to her. And it took me literally weeks to formulate how that was going to work. But here's the nice part that I didn't anticipate, that I train heavily. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No matter where in the world I am, I'm training my team.
Yep.
Values, daily practices, and execution model. And now that's the only Business Dave that she sees, because she has to be at the trainings.
Number 8, the most important variable of time to measure.
I only use time to measure how much time am I not in the trajectory of where I want to be. So I can put a quantitative measure to guilt. If I felt guilty for 2 hours today, then I put an objective to feel guilty for 1 hour and 59 minutes tomorrow. It's just like the clothes, right?
Ties in.
It is the exact same thing. But you can only, every matter in the world, subjective or objective, can be quantified in this way with time.
Yeah.
How much time am I interfering with where I want to be?
Time is the hardest element. It just is. It's really hard because we live in the present.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling lousy today, for whatever reason, the idea that I'm going to not feel lousy tomorrow or a year from today just doesn't resonate, because I'm in the moment right now. If you're trying to quit smoking, it's hard. Yeah. I smoked cigarettes in high school and chewing tobacco playing baseball.
Me too.
Quitting was tough. In that moment you first quit, it's what the law of relativity,
Yeah.
right? A minute can feel like an hour, and an hour can feel like a minute, depending on what you're doing. And so when you're trying and you're killing yourself for success, and we take this back to a little bit of business, that time element, I mean, I still struggle with it. Like even today, I catch myself going, oh, I'm trying to build my personal brand right now, right? I made a conscious effort in 2023 that the Jeff Fenster brand needs to grow because I do have lessons to share. I have value to give. I've been a mentee of so many incredible humans and have learned so many things that I've applied to be successful professionally, that just like the philanthropic side of you and all my other mentors that have helped me get there, I owe it to pay it forward. I owe it to help inspire the next generation as I age through it. And that whole process, I look at the results the same, and I'm back to the same Jeff who came to you in 2000, back when in Orange County and said, how do I get there faster? Yeah. How do I do it? And then I have to remember, and you said it, inspire 2 people this year. And when you quantify it as such an obtainable goal, 2 people, I can do that. Now you just helped me go back to my own core values of Kaizen, right? And go back to that same lesson. Number 9, the first 5 minutes suck.
And I've lost 47 pounds utilizing this over the years, but my favorite is now, because I'm so consistent with it, is I love the philosophy of the first 5 minutes suck of all behaviors you don't feel like doing. First 5 minutes suck of all behaviors you don't feel like doing. Why is that important? Because any morning it can be, and I spend a minimum of an hour a day on my health, and I wake up at 4 a.m., meditate for 20 minutes, and then go to exercise, which includes balance, stretching, cardio, strength. 4 components that I vary in how many minutes, but it's a total minimum of an hour a day. But you can imagine sometimes at 4:30 after coming back from Dubai and Mexico City, 36 hours each, that first day saying to yourself, I don't want to do this. Not at 4:30. I'll do it later in the day. Yep. That's probably usually my mindset. I'll get it done. It's a non-negotiable, but it's not going to be 4:30. You know what I tell myself? First 5 minutes suck. Yep. And then I tell myself, if after 5 minutes on this jog, climber, rower, Peloton, whatever I'm going to do, because I start with cardio, after the first minute, if I don't want to do it anymore, I'm going to go write down what time I am going to restart and go back to sleep. 0. I've never gone back to sleep, and I've never worked out and said, oh, I wish I didn't do that.
You'll never regret it.
Right.
You'll never regret it. I mean,
and that's any behavior you don't want to do. Tell yourself the first 5 minutes suck, and you can quit after 5 minutes.
And I mean, that's the kind of advice that we all need. That's the kind of lessons we all need to learn and master, which is it's so easy to do things when you want to. It's so easy to work hard on the days that you feel like it, and life's working.
Getting paid a lot.
Correct.
Exciting people are coming in. It's so easy.
It's so easy. And I get asked, Jeff, I always talk about core values. It's one of my keynotes. I'm so big on it now. And why? Because you know what core values and having a success formula does? It tells you what to do on the days you don't want to.
Yeah.
When you're going to quit. It helps you when it's your darkest hour. We all want to worry about, when I'm feeling good and I got money and I got clients, business is great. But if we're walking into a recession, which we possibly are, or we're walking into another financial crisis that we had in 2008, what you have as far as that formula, that core value, that thing to lean on professionally is going to guide you through it so we don't make the catastrophic mistakes. We don't fall off track. And that's why I like your 5 minutes is the first 5 minutes are going to suck anyway. If you take that same advice, and I take that same advice, we're going to work out every day. Number 10, your family should not be your first priority. I see a lot of successful business people that are completely out of shape and unhealthy.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Because they put their family first and activity they get paid for second. And once you do that, and I was a victim of this as well in the mindset, heart set, and handset that I have today, is the minute you put your family first, you're most likely never going to want to work out because you're always going to have the option of being with your family. Or if you put making money for your family before your health, you're always going to want to make money. And so it's only at the most convenient times when you really feel like it, like you're in Bora Bora with nothing else to do and it's 72 and sunny out and they have, a great facility and they've offered you a trainer, I'll work out today. But if you put your health first, knowing that if you're healthy, you get as many wishes, as many dreams that you want by being healthy. And if you're unhealthy, you only get one wish and one dream a day. You'll start realizing, wait a second, if I really care about my family and I really care about the activity I get paid for, and I do, then I'm going to take care of myself first.
Yep.
And I'm going to be really good father, husband, friend, family member, and even a better, productive, accessible, and gracious money earner.
Number 11, identifying your fears. What do you believe holds most entrepreneurs back from achieving their dreams?
Ego. No doubt about it. So fear of the past, fear of the future. There's only two fears that I help entrepreneurs identify. If I can help you identify, okay, I'm afraid of the past, usually manifests itself in regret and guilt, or I'm afraid of the future, anxiety and worry, and then apply and learn which ego-based consciousnesses are applying. So let me list them off that I've learned by practicing for 17 years. Because a lot of them were ones that you're going to recognize in my personality that aren't prevalent anymore, only for minutes and moments, not days, weeks, months, and years, which you've experienced. You'll giggle when I tell you them. Need to be right, need to be offended, need to be separate, inferior, and superior, need to be anxious, frustrated, angry, worried, guilty, and resentful, just to name a few. And a lot of those needs of the ego, which are applied to the fear of the past or fear of the future, defining moments, setbacks, failures, and mistakes in my past, or worry about not being worthy, wealthy, happy in the future, creating resistance, interference between me and the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing, unified, abundant, infinite system of thought that you and I belong to, an empowered being species that allows us to be protected and promoted by the defining moments, setbacks, failures, and mistakes. Literally, this practice that I teach people, instead of resisting it, going over and under it, through it, around it, lying to it, manipulating, cheating it, or denying it, which I did a lot, instead of trying to fight it, analyze it, logic it, I now, when I identify fear in my life, fear of the past, fear of the future, and can apply what ego is being applied, instead of doing any of that, I just stop. Breathe through my nose, out through my mouth. I stop, remind and remember and recollect with that source. What is it I want today? Who can I help? Who can help me? How best can I get that done? And then I have that magical thing that you're so good at and I'm good at, prioritize.
Number 12, desire determines your delta.
And so it came from graduating law school and having a realization that they had hired me too early. You're supposed to have 4 years of legal experience. I was hired into this internet division with 3 other people. I was 4. But all the other guys were over 50, making millions selling books. And so I started to think about, okay, I'm not as skilled as these guys that had been here forever. I don't have the knowledge that they have, but I do have desire. Right? And I know my skills and my knowledge are my basement, and my basement's much lower than them, but my desire determines my delta. And so I said, let me look at this mathematically. Those guys are working at best 8 hours a day. Well, I don't have a family. I don't have any kids. I don't own a house. I'm going to go 16 hours a day, right? 16 hours a day productive. And then I said to myself, I'm going to focus in on being more efficient than them. And so I looked at everything in my life I did every hour, every day, every week, and every month. And I created systems to even brushing my teeth, right? I remember putting, right, a calculator with a timer on it because watches didn't have them as variable and there was no phones. But I put this next and I said, on average for a week, how much time do I spend brushing my teeth, flossing, and I always take Listerine. Well, what happened was, I don't know if this happens to you, I would brush my teeth and forget because I didn't have a system, or I would daydream because it was earlier in the morning. So it was 6 minutes on average. I said, if I can cut that down to 2 minutes by focusing in on always starting here, going this way, going here, and finishing up here, same thing with the floss, and then squig the Listerine and start the shower while I was in there. If I could do that in 2 minutes instead of 6, it'd be 28 minutes a week, 2 hours a month, 24 hours a year. I'd pick up 3 full days of productivity by brushing my teeth.
That's right.
So I started looking at all that. And so what happened was 16 hours times twice as efficient became 32 hours. Then the most valuable was this idea of consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential, statistical success. Sales. I was going to be twice as successful. So out of 10 sales, if I was getting 1, I was going to get 2 by practicing.
By being the best.
And being the best. So 32 hours of productivity became 64 hours of productivity. I got 8 days of productivity every day. And then I did it 7 days a week, which became 56 days in 1 week. So when everyone else was getting 5 8-hour days, I was getting 56 full hour. So when I made $1 million 9 months out of law school and got all the awards and everything, my comp plan was $250. I had $1 million. They're like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. You blew out the comp plan." And to reward me, they cut my comp plan, which I learned another great lesson. But more importantly, I was giggling and they're like, "What's so funny?" I said, "Well, I really didn't beat the comp plan. It took me 11 years." Your normal rep it'd be 11 years before they could make the $1 million. So I wasn't as good as they were, but I beat them with hours, efficiency, and statistical success.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Lessons Learned. I hope you learned as much as I did from our special guest, David Meltzer. Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking to level up your relationship capital game, then take a minute and text the word Jeff to 33777 for a free copy of my Network to Millions playbook. The link will also be provided in the show notes below. See you guys next time.